Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, the Adam Meakin, Neil and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings, greetings.
Afternoon, everyone.
Very good afternoon.
Hey, George. Anyone else in Discord, just so we know we're going to participate? Normally a hello will suffice. No, just somebody dropping. Okay, let's move on.
Hello.
Hello, thank you. Brilliant stuff. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
That's a very exothermic topic at the moment, but no drift.
Means hot.
Yes, it's a hot topic, but no, you need R for that.
You do need R for that, that's right. With that, I'll move on. Any evidence of physical geometric sphere edge horizons, formerly known as Earth curvature?
You want to take this one, Adam?
I could follow through there. No, but you would need R for it.
That's all I need to move on, to be honest. Unless somebody's going to want to pull it apart, don't say you'll need R for that, because that's where I'll move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Wow.
I think that's an R.
Hold on, go ahead, George.
Black Swan has debunked the R value. No distance to the sun.
It's correct. The distance to the sun is defined as an AU, which is calculated via R. So you would need R for that.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Hello.
Hey, Arwin.
You know, from the surface to the centre of the presupposed ball Earth, what's that distance called?
Radius?
Radius?
Oh,
Yeah, you're definitely going to need a radius.
You're going to need R to know that distance, to know where it's supposedly going to be molten, aren't you? So, yeah, you're going to need R.
You're going to need R for that. I see.
Yeah, we need a hard R.
Okay, I won't ask. Shout out to, is it Jules Luds? Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Why are Globers such cowards? Because they have no balls. Boom, boom. Thank you very much for the super chat. I should really read these before I read them out. It's very good. Thank you very much. Is it Jules? Hopefully saying your name correctly. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, but that was a good one.
What is it?
Well, which one? 106-year out-of-date gravity or the new hotness?
No, I'm not talking about conventions. I'm talking about what is gravity.
Bending space-time in a concept in maths.
What's your evidence for that?
The maths itself is all I need because it only takes place in maths. Likewise, if I say unicorns eat grain in unicorn world, then that is all the evidence I require. Unicorn world's a hypothetical construct. And I assure you, Arwin, you cannot refute the fact that in unicorn world, unicorns do eat corn. Or grain.
Well, wouldn't it be required to prove that that entire conception and realm exists first?
I'm not trying to prove it exists. I'm saying it exists in that description. Likewise, I don't have to prove that Narnia exists to say there's a time dilation issue in Narnia, right? That is a fact. It's just not our reality. So it has no bearing on or consequence on our reality. So me describing what gravity is in pseudo-Ramonian force space, that would be the notion that time is bent by the uneven distribution of mass. Well, that has no bearing on reality. It's just a description in Narnia.
What? You're saying
Even though it's got no
gravity is
bearing.
in pseudo-Ramonian force space, but what is it in the real world, though?
Nothing. Nothing. Zero. Nada. It isn't. Maybe Adam, can you tell Arwin that there isn't a gravity in the real world?
Well, no, there isn't. The gravity, I suppose, would be in the mass. That would be, well, I think probably have to go with the hotness, as
mass?
you say, Einsteinian. And therefore, you'd be looking at M1 and M2. That's going to require an R, I'm afraid, for you to even calculate it in a theoretical dimension. It's still stipulating one of the 3 dimensions parameters, and that is R. So without R, you can't even calculate your G.
There is R in gravity, that's true. Otherwise, it would just be gravity.
No. Centre of M1 being the centre of Earth mass that you're talking about. If you've got 9.8 meters per second acceleration towards the centre of M1, M1 being Earth. Well, you need a radius for that, don't you?
You are going to need it so you can derive your G, yeah. That's part of it.
Yeah. No, without R, there is no G.
Yep.
You're going to need an R for that. We move on. Anybody else? Scientific evidence of gravity. This is not, by the way.
I still don't know what it is in the real world, you know? If something it has scientific evidence, you need it to be something, a phenomenon first
Right.
in the real world.
That's the point. Yeah. Correct, Darwin. Say that again, but with more confidence. Make it a statement instead of a kind of upward inflection question.
Well, in order to have scientific evidence for something, you need a real world phenomenon first for your hypothesis.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Arwin. And there is nothing occurring in nature, so therefore you're not going to science gravity because it's not real.
Well, they say everything pulls to the Earth.
Okay. Meanwhile, gas expands in all directions.
Yeah, not including gas. Gas is
I
excluded
mean,
from
not
that.
including gas.
Everything else.
Not including mass. It's got
This is
mass.
what they told me.
That's. Well, hold on. Let's get some clarity. Who are they? You're talking about anti-flat earthers now, aren't you?
Well, they've been saying this for a while, so yeah, I guess anti-flat earthers have always been around. So yeah, anti-flat earthers. They exclude gas. Anything but gas goes down, so gravity.
Gas doesn't go down. I just said that. So yeah, don't worry. You're dealing with formerly known as globe heads, numpties, spinning ball space monkeys. And there's a whole list. Anti-flat earthers might say, well, everything except gas with mass. It's like, no, that's not what the globe rhetoric says. You're going against the globe rhetoric now, aren't you, anti-flat earther? Or maybe it's just that you need to retain 106-year out-of-date gravity because it's got force elements in it. But of course, not including gas.
Clouds don't go down.
Well, they phrased it physical. Anything physical that you could touch comes to the Earth.
Not the
Clouds
clowns.
don't go down.
Not the clowns, it's the bouncy balls.
The former gravity never had a hypothesis either.
Oh,
It
that
was
was
explained.
Should wait
He
till the
said
end.
clouds. He said clouds, not clowns.
I thought you said cloud because I was doing the circus music. My bad, Eli. You said clouds.
Oh, now I get it. No, clouds, they don't come down. They're just there. If we're honest, like we don't see all of the particles collecting. We don't see any of that. We just see this cloud, and it's just up there, not coming down.
Yeah, gas does not go down, go boom boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls.
Till it rains.
That's not gas.
Right.
No, it's then a liquid in a medium that is considerably less dense than it.
Right.
No,
And
not
as a water
gas.
droplet, it becomes a lot more dense.
Why are we talking about water? So gas expands in all directions, still has mass. It just flies in the face of this assertion that gas is going to be attracted to the centre of M1, which would be Earth, in a Newtonian standpoint of actually CV Boy's, Reverend John Michel and Cavendish gravity, to more accurately name it. Well, that was superseded 106 years ago by Einsteinian new hotness, which is the bending of space-time by way of uneven distribution of mass in a geometry known as pseudo-Harmonian force-space. That's the current gravity. Bending space-time. Back to Arwin's point, I thought he was going to say it in that gap. Meanwhile, no phenomena to observe, right, Arwin?
That's right. And the one to which the form of gravity is attributed officially disclaimed a hypothesis for the theory.
Right. So neither gravity is going to give you any forces that are going to hold gas here, and gas flies in the face, quite literally, of the Cavendish version of gravity, which is 106 years out of date, and the current gravity is bending space-time in a mathematical construct, like Narnia.
Do you not think it's interesting? I'm just pondering. 10 years ago, I'd have answered with, well, it was Newton sitting under a tree when an apple fell on his head as the first observed phenomena of it. I want to take that apart. I just find it interesting that that's fed to us all at such an early age, continuously. It's a story we all know.
Can I ask
And
you
that is the
before you
phenomenon.
launch into it, though? Can I ask you a quick question about that statement before you launch into it? So, your story starts with an apple suspended from a stalk on a tree. Is that how apples come to pass? Do they manifest in existence in precarious balance, or do they grow from the ground upwards?
Oh yeah, all of the nutrients, yeah, they're taken from the ground, and the apple's built up in the tree.
So it went up first
Mm-hmm.
before Newton's story, so-called Newton's story, began.
Yes, before cut to Newton, there's a lot of stuff had gone off. A lot of energy work had been done to get the apple.
That school system I'm talking about.
Okay, so Adam, without interruption from anyone else, including me, feel free.
It wasn't to go into that. It was just to say I was just thinking there. It's programmed into the kids at an early age. It's one of those things that, looking back now, I see I'm being fed a phenomena, but back then that was science, wasn't it? That was the science. That was the fundamental underpinning, and that's actually the first mugging off you get, to accept that Newton, having that genius, abductive reason thinking in there, yeah, it's supposed to be a pinnacle moment in science, and it's just a mugging off.
Only from your perspective, though, it was... Maybe I'm crediting you something that's not actually you that said this to me, but stop me early if this is wrong. Did you not tell me that during your higher education, you were then told above the wonderful Einsteinian gravity and told that the sort of nonsense of Cavendish was just nonsense?
No, not to that level. No, not like it's the new hotness. It's a bit like the baller rhetoric, really. It's more a further explanation. It's not pointed out to you. I mean, I only did A-level physics up to the first year because it was just getting nonsensical as it gets into it. And I just So I quit and did psychology instead. But no, and maybe that's why it was getting nonsensical, because I weren't aware of why, but it weren't balancing in the head, and that's because it's built as an add-on. It doesn't say Einstein completely destroys Newton. Ignore what you've just done in the past load of repeat. I hate to use the word experiments now when I think of what we did in A-level physics. Yeah, but it wasn't painted like that. Like I say, he's painted as the beginning of physics, isn't it? But the point I'm making is it's that first tale is actually the first lie. The first point of you accepting or being mugged off into trying to take something as science when it's not, even to the point of the observation of the phenomena.
Is that how you interpret superseded?
Oh, well, exactly. We would never said, oh, by the way, all that stuff we just done on Newton, that's been superseded. Now let's go to the new hotness. No, that was never. It was never portrayed like that. 30 odd years ago, so you know what I mean. But I think that would be quite a noticeable. It's something you'd remember. It's something that's I'm aware of now, in terms of it. And I say I don't think it's something that your standard ball. I'm not talking anti-flat earther thinks either. They think they work together. They support each other.
So if you go back to 1915, when Einstein first said it, what was he doing to Newton's story then? What was missing that he had to come up with this? Mass attracting mass. We never observed it.
Gas behavior, that was what was missing.
He's trying to give a cause, isn't he? Einstein, for spooky action at a distance. Trying to postulate. Now, the only way you can postulate it is mathematically in a non-existent fourth dimension, where he can produce mathematics that can possibly match some observations. That's what he's doing there, isn't it? It's not real. He's just using maths to match some of the observations in reality, but he has to do it in a fourth dimension.
Wait, I don't understand, but the one thing I did take away from you guys' conversation over the months is that you can only solve for like what, two masses or one mass even. So then what is it? What is the math then, if that's true? How is it working out? Because I'm sorry, but you just said that the math seems to describe certain things. Right?
Yeah, so if you've, how do I put it? And this isn't my field. You need Brian for this. So help me, Nathan, but for me, it's that description of just dropping a ball that Newton can't explain. But if you build in that fourth dimension, then you can have geodesics that explain why the ball does that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in that fourth dimension, the apologetics for the force that is not a force that Newton says don't ascribe to me. That's where the apologetics for it is there in the calculations and within the non-Euclidean force space.
So when you get to university, I think you put it year one physics. Oh,
well, mine was A-level. This is college. This is before.
Oh,
uni.
okay.
So I did it for a bit, but yeah.
Because I'm thinking that because it sounds. So they basically say, yeah. So here's where we introduce to you that you have to imagine a world in which this will all work. Here's the math for it. Like the 4D space thing. Like, okay, accept this, and through these rose-colored glasses is how you look at everything else.
More like it is like I describe it as, is some numbers to prove it. The numbers balance, therefore, the way I described it is reality.
Adam, the mass 2, is that referencing mass attracts mass, and mass 1 is describing Einstein? So how could that work if one does 2 and the other one can only do 1? Is that why we have a problem here?
No, that's not orbital mechanics. That's just the force of attraction. So those you could have, like, you know, when we say about the ISS and that it's not, nobody's in. I'm into their fantasy world, so I don't have to keep correcting myself. So up there, when you see it on the TV, look, they're weightless, but they're not weightless. If you use that calculation, they've actually got an equivalent of 8.2 newtons per meter per second. So that's what that calculation. That's why they're falling. They're not. That's what their weightlessness comes from. So if you take that calculation, if you bring us to the Earth, it's 9.8. If you go 250 miles away, it's 8 point something or other. That makes sense. That's just the force of attraction between the two. It's not calculating orbital mechanics on that.
Let me know when you're
You
done.
know what that sounds like to me?
It's making me twitch all this begging the question. Let me know when you're finished.
Please,
Right.
I'm stretching my brain here. Physics is not. I started with the disclaimer. I quit physics, and this just.
But this sounds like to me what Akumu was trying to do yesterday in the after show, because there's a word, level, horizontal, horizon. All of these things have specific definitions, right? And so me and Solar were in there talking to a couple of them and basically saying, like, prior to 2015, level wasn't even used as they're trying to use it today, which he got some citation where it said that level could mean over the surface of the curving water. It's like, wow, you know. But so when we got older definition, or older sources for the definition, it doesn't say anything about how level means that, you know, as long as you're the same. There's a begging the question in Akumu's mind that's not in the wording, but he implies it. So it sounds like when you're talking about this, the Einstein thing, when 10th just questioned you there about the M1 and M2, it sounds like there's something that's implied rather than proven, right? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, M1.
Like, it's just implied. It's like, oh no, we're gonna take this to mean this.
Yeah, the center of M1. That's R.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about R, basically.
Yeah, see, it
Yeah, the
doesn't
mass
matter
of the
how you
Earth.
word it, how you look at it. The lie is the same regardless of what subject you're talking about. It's crazy
Yeah.
how that works like that.
Yeah. It's
Don't
always the
just
same
shut him
thing.
up by saying you need a radius, Akumu virus. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Need a radius. Every time.
Yeah, Eli, I think what he's trying to do is show you in the language on the presupposed curved surface, the zenith is going straight to the center of that Earth, but you're going to need R. So that locally flat doesn't work because you're going to need R. If you're going to say I'm locally flat because the star or whatever is directly over me, but it's going to the center, well, the center implies a sphere. Sphere needs a radius. So the whole thing falls apart without R.
That's correct. I thought you were going to say it sounds like bullshit because that's what it is. You need R. Forget about all that math. Throw it out the window. You have no radius for this math that you're bringing to me.
Okay. Should we move past gravity?
Yeah, so far AU, distance to the sun, needed R. Then you had center
Neil,
of the earth.
Neil.
Sorry.
Then you had center
I
of the
did
earth.
hit mute, though.
Come on. Then you had center of the earth, you needed R. And then gravity, you needed R. So keep going.
Next one doesn't have it. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, and relax, 10th.
Not necessarily.
Exothermic, Neil.
Okay. Sorry, Adam, what did
Yo,
you say?
that piece of concrete is still hot, by the way.
No one
Really
knows what
hot.
you're talking about. It was talked about in the pre-show. Go ahead, Adam.
I would say not necessarily. However, it's most likely if they were to present us with a hypothesis, it would include R. But fundamentally, if you even in their world,
That's not a hypothesis. I'm sorry.
No,
If it includes R, then right.
Let me finish.
Okay.
If within anything they're going to postulate, it's going to be within their paradigm, and if within any of that they determine a distance, then unfortunately they would be falling back and relying on R to, as we said, with the distance to the sun. Celestial units are calculated in AUs. AUs of a derivative of R. So not necessarily, but actually, I think in reality, if something was presented, there would be an inclusion of R in there at a fundamental level.
Right. R with caveats. Go ahead, Eli.
Then it's not a hypothesis.
They haven't presented anything yet, though. We're asking them for...
Because if you say that there's R there, then that's the presupposition, and a hypothesis is a supposition as to what the cause of a natural phenomena would be. That saying R is in there, that has nothing to do with that process.
No, that's not right. They could easily offer up a hypothesis that didn't have it as a independent or dependent variable. They just say it as a control. So that's not necessarily true. But we're jumping the gun because nothing's been offered at this stage. We're asking them. We've got to wait for a response in order to say you're going to need R for that. In other words, you're going to need R with that caveat if they give anything back, which they haven't yet. We're asking them.
So the only thing they can give, and they haven't, or let me rephrase that, what are they observing? And the minute they start explaining, then they're going to need R for that.
Correct.
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
The moment a response comes, following their response, there is a very, very good chance that you could respond to almost anything they reply to that question with. So it follows as this. Any evidence or any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. Astrophysicist steps forward and says, if the Earth is a sphere, then I will observe the stars being tracked by my equatorial mount. And I do observe the stars tracked by my equatorial mount because the Earth's a sphere. Then you can respond to him. You're going to need R for that. But you have to wait for the response first, is all the point is. But if you're watching and you throw that question out there, know that pretty much any response that you get could be responded by, well, from you, the flat earther, to the globe believer or astrophysicist, with you're going to need R from that. But not when you're asking the question, that's all.
Yeah, but doesn't their whole field rely on R?
Yes, that's the point, yes. But you, right, Neil, you can't say to me, when I ask if there's been any viable hypotheses offered from those fields, you can't respond to that by saying they're going to need R for that. Actually, you could. They're going to need R for that.
Why not?
I've just said it. They can.
I always say
they're
you could.
going to need R for that, not you'll need R for that. So in other words, instead of telling me, the person asking the question, that I'll need R for that, when I'm asking about molten iron core, it's reasonable to tell me that I'll need R to respond to the question. But to turn it around onto them in one step, they're going to need R for that, aren't they? I'm glad we had this conversation. They're going to need R for that.
Standing on the sphere.
Hold on, let's just summarise it. You can say, when I ask any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, you can respond, they're going to need R for that, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I've been trying to say this, and I think so is Tent.
Yeah.
They already assuming they're standing on the sphere.
We know that. We know that, Neil. We're all on the same side here. We've been hashing it out together, my friend.
Yeah, I think Nathan's looking for the proper wording, and it just offered itself up.
I know, he's always looking for the proper because he's English.
Popped in as an objection. You can't say that they're going to need R for that. Hang on. Yeah, you can. You can say it just like that, can't you? They're going to need R for that.
Correct.
Well, semantics are important, and timing is very important because, again, you're having a conversation with someone. So you can't just straw man them because you know where you think they're going. Well, if someone is saying, well, someone has, all of these views from a presupposed spherical Earth, then those people that you are referring to would have had to had R at some point. I'm not just going to say, well, you're going to need R because they're not doing anything to presuppose. Well, they're not the ones offering up the information until they then say, well, I'm saying it. Well, then you can say, well, then you're going to need R for that.
Exactly. So until then, they're going to need R for that. It's perfectly satisfactory unless I get challenged otherwise.
Back to what someone said. Who said EQ mount?
Wolfie 6020.
Okay, it is my understanding, and I could be wrong, but I've done fairly good enough research, that the altitude azimuth, is based on the observer's location, so a viewpoint from Earth. But the RA and DC declination, which is what he's talking about, the AQ mount, is based from the reference point of the sky or space in their world. So one is looking from over there for reference points to Earth, which is RA and declination. And then the other one, altitude and azimuth, is based on the observer's location, which changes because the movement of the sun, if you're tracking that, they'll say it's because the Earth's turning. But on the RA declination for the EQ mount and all that, anyone in the world could go to Google and say, what's the RA and dec for the sun or Venus? And it's the same for everyone. It won't change. So it's a different reference point. So how can they use that to say it has anything to do with the Earth and R?
Well, they just assume it.
No, I know that, but they can't. But one is from that reference point. The other one is, see, the alt-az destroys R because it's the observer who's here on Earth. It doesn't work because that azimuth is a plane from north in a clockwise motion. It's the bearing or direction, and then you got altitude, the height of the sun, say, and you can go right to that. So you can't have R for that. It won't work.
You don't need R for that. It's your bits that I was thinking about, and I'm not going to postulate any because I'm waiting for a baller to come up with something. But there's your bits there, which we could say are in those fields, and we don't need R in there. In fact, R's an abomination in there, which is fine, and I can kind of work bits in there. But then comes the sticky bit, because suddenly we've got to science it, and that's where you see, to go into their field, they're still then going to say they are probably going to need R.
Yeah, the minute you say orbits.
Yeah.
I put the
let Adam get to the end of his point, because I completely agree. You need a weasel word in there. Say that again, Adam.
Yeah, I think until, well, infinitum, there could be something that could go in there, but I think they're probably going to need R for that.
Yeah, they'll probably need R for that.
Yeah.
Is fair, I think.
Yeah. Like I say, you can do bits with tenths, but to then try and science it, is the only way they're going to be able to start to get towards that. It's a prerequisite once they want to build it into their model, but you can't. I don't think you can be cocky enough to.
Well, let me refine my statement. Let me refine it. If Wolfie, who's making all that noise?
Eli.
Sorry.
Okay, if Wolfie or anyone else is going to say EQ mount, then he can't say that proves the shape of the Earth in any way, shape, or form, because the reference point is the sky or space in their world. It's not the Earth. That's my point.
You can produce similar mathematics for the EQ mount of a flat plane based on perspective and disappearance into the horizon and circular motion above. So you don't. That's what I was saying. You don't really need R for an EQ mount to work. They presuppose R and pre-assume rotation. Yeah, and remember, a fair proportion of what you see with an EQ mount is apparently happening through your feet. You don't see it all. It's not there. It's not validatable. This rotation, is it? It's a presumption again. So for an EQ mount to work, you don't need R.
It has been in the past and will forever be presented up, like it will be by Wolfie, as an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If P, then QQ, therefore P. So if the Earth is a rotating sphere, I will track the stars with my EQ mount, thus I track the stars with my EQ mount, thus the Earth is a rotating sphere. That's how it's presented by Wolfie or any other dick that presents this as a sphere proof. They just affirm the consequent and beg the question. I think EQ is a bit of a dusty old one, and you've got to be a reasonable daban to talk your way around it and obfuscate away at the right moment when you're asked the wrong question and all those sorts of things. And there's not a great deal of people that can actually do it well enough in debate with the EQ mount. Wolfie's actually one of them. I'll give credit where he's due with flat Earth credit. Anti-flat Earth credit being the thing I'm describing here, right? He knows when to obfuscate at the right moment when someone points out that he's affirming the consequent and begging the question with his EQ mount assumption of a spherical Earth. Yeah. But he can still actually go through the motions of doing that and perhaps leave a few audience members a bit bewildered or convinced that his affirming the consequent actually proves something. So, we'll see. Is there a cat that's stuck in a bag currently in regards to Wolfie that I shouldn't be letting out? Do you know anybody on the panel?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's any silence on it.
Okay, I'll give a plug. This is a bit of an interesting plug to be given the last week. But there we go. So from what I understand, Wolfie and Brian's logic are going to face off. And I don't mind actually giving a plug to this particular individual, which is why I say it's weird, because he's been given credit in the past for being a good moderator. I'll highlight that and stress that. But Conspiracy Cats' channel is where this is going to be hosted. As I say, he has been credited as being a good moderator in the past, so I have no reason to believe that he won't do the same now for Wolfie and Brian. So keep your ear to the ground. I don't know when that's going to be announced, but check it out. Brian and Wolfie will face off. Brian did give us a few broad strokes about what the discussion topics were going to be. One of them was the EQ mount, along with, I think there was some sort of stipulation from Wolfie that Brian's got to plot a course. That's what I read. I didn't really understand what it was. I read that and thought, you want Brian to do the thing you do, so presumably you can put fault in something that you do professionally daily. Okay, if that's the rules, I suppose. If Brian's going to agree to that, fair enough.
Yeah, he's trying to get him on his territory.
That's fair enough. I don't know if Brian's criticised that, though. I know he's criticised various aspects of flights and how they claim to work on a sphere. So it seems like a dusty old, I'm going to show you how it works on my map, let's see how it works on yours false dichotomy, but maybe I'm wrong. We didn't actually ask specifically in housekeeping. Any evidence of the R value?
You're going to need R for that.
I couldn't get to my mute button in time.
Say again, Neil.
I was going to say the same thing, but I couldn't get to my mute button on time.
Okay. Last but by no means least, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
You're going to need a container. No R required, though.
Yeah. Are required for atmosphere. Sphere-shaped air? Gas without containment?
Yeah.
That's their claim. Again, I suppose you can say that I can't reasonably get an R response to that, but they're going to need R for that, for certain.
They do need R for that, because they claim that the lack of containment is overcome by the little gas particle that couldn't, which is a force applied by gravity to stop these things disappearing. The gravity is calculated by M1s R, so they would need R for that.
Not only that, they got a ball. They got a gas in a ball. Atmosphere, gas shape, a ball-shaped gas.
No, but to calculate the force applied to the otherwise gas particle that's behaving correctly under gas behavior, as it gets further and further away from the surface, that's where it apparently loses energy. That energy that it's taken away is generated by gravity, which is based on the distance from it, which is based on R. So you do need R for gas pressure without a container in their paradigm.
A couple of quick shout outs. Good Servant super chatted quite a considerable amount of time ago and I never actually shouted him out, so shout out to Good Servant for the super chat. I did stick it up on screen while the conversation was rolling so I didn't interrupt, as there's a slight break. Sacred No Ledge, aka Universe. Sacred Knowledge, okay. No Ledge. What we got? Screw I knew Satan. I mean Isaac Newton. Anyone want to translate that for me? Screw I knew Satan, comma, I mean Isaac Newton. Thank you for the super chat.
Eric, hot mic.
Eric, can you pop yourself on mute? I think someone server muted him already. That concludes the housekeeping, by the way. That's that. Couple of noteworthy points. So throughout this stream, the viewing numbers have gone all over the place. They've been doing it for a couple of weeks, actually, just going all over the place. And yesterday, because I had a over 4-hour stream that went out on my second channel, obviously I couldn't monitor it the entire time, which I typically do. Even if I'm not chatting, I'm normally watching. But yesterday I couldn't, it was just too long, I had things to do. Anyway, I'd periodically monitor it, so I'd come back to it. And I came back to it and I'm chatting away, and then I noticed somebody in the chat mention 500 people watching. I thought, oh, they must be talking about another show. And then I glanced up to notice that there was an excess of 500 people registered as watching yesterday's Uncut and After show on the second channel. Now, I haven't had a bug report yet from YouTube. I'll say this straight away, I'm pretty certain this is just a bug glitch. Because if you've got 500 people watching, the chat is going pretty quick, and it was going at the normal rate that it would go at. And all the people that would normally be in there were in there. There was maybe a couple of new faces, but nothing out of the ordinary. In other words, the stream was just ticking along like it always ticks along. The only exception being the 500 thumbs up and the 620 people at what point that were watching, according to the numbers. So I thought that was really amusing. Say again?
Unless those are the real numbers.
Oh, here we go.
And and the algorithms that suppress what's really going on were broken yesterday. Maybe that's what happened.
No, I don't think so. So I trust my stats. Typically, I'll go through my stats. I'm actually a bit of a slave to them, if I'm honest. But I know roughly percentage-wise what you'll get with how many views, how many comments will be proportional to that, how many people will rate the video based on that, and how many people will therefore share it. Yeah, now I can have a mild influence on how many people will share it. Share the show, by the way. It's the main way this show gets viewed. People sharing. Anyway, that aside, I've got a good idea what the stats should indicate. Now, do I do well with comments? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, people are very interactive with this show, which is good, you know, or it would be if I was actually benefiting from it in the algorithm. I shouldn't talk in general terms here, but that's just the way I'm going to. Typically, that would be good, right? A lot of interaction in the comments would mean, you know, this video will get participation, therefore longer viewership, therefore I'll put it in front of more people, would be the algorithmic version of, oh, this is a good video. Now, while I don't necessarily get that, I still know what I get in terms of percentage-wise figures comparatively. So if I suddenly see one of those figures just, you know, skew if, like no ratings or 2 thumbs up on a video that's had 1,000 views, I'm like, that's just an error. Or likewise, if I see the normal number of 50, 60 thumbs up and 20, 30 thumbs down if everybody hates that video, then I'll still see the normal 1,000 people watching it, not 600 people all at once watching it. So typically when that happens negatively or positively, YouTube just correct it. So glitches like that tend to get corrected pretty quickly, which I'm grateful of, because typically for me, it's someone coming in with 1 million sock accounts and spamming thumbs down, which YouTube just immediately recognise and just get rid of the following day. And likewise, if there's some bot that's out there deciding that they're going to put 500 views on my video for whatever reason, then YouTube will just see that and go, those aren't real views, and they just get rid of them, which is good. Because I want real stats. I know a lot of people just want to seem popular or seem like they've got more views, and the numbers themselves don't matter, but to me they really, really matter, because it tells me how many people are watching, how many, you know, I have to trust my stats so I can react to them. And if they're inaccurate, I can't react to them in a way that's worthy of the reaction and the time that they get. So to me, they're quite important. But I just thought it was funny. I mean, this is just a big aside to the fact that I thought it was amusing that up until now, 320 on this channel, Nathan Oakley 1980 pre-COVID, was my peak. So just before COVID hit, that was when I got the most live viewers, about 320. And I was very, very, very pleased with that. That's exceptional as far as I'm concerned for such a small channel. But getting 620 on the second channel, subscribe today, by the way, is just ludicrous. You know, that wasn't the case. But certainly noteworthy, though. So Jim West says 151 watching, only 21 likes. Yeah, that's perfectly normal.
Yeah, I still want to talk about the EQ mount with Adam if he's willing.
For what I know, mate, it's...
Well, the reason I bring it up is because I see another trick here, much like the sextant. See, the EQ mount is set to Polaris. And what you're measuring with right ascension and declination is how the stars move around Polaris. That's what I mean when I say it's the reference point is not the Earth. Whereas altitude and azimuth, you still have the same stars, but you're not setting anything to Polaris. You're just taking a siding. And what they've done is both work, obviously, on a flat plane. But the trick is one is set, because you got to set the EQ mount pointing to Polaris and make everything. And you got to put in your longitude, latitude before you even start using it. Whereas just from cursory research, the altitude azimuth is you could be in England or you could be in the middle of the ocean and you're sighting a luminary and you go to the book. So it's 2 different ways of doing the same thing, but it doesn't prove a globe, is my point.
No, you have to affirm the consequent.
Right, but when they come on and say the EQ mount proves a sphere, I want to have a quick way of just saying, no, it doesn't. It just proves that one is done to all the stars' movements around Polaris with your EQ mount set to that, and the other one is you with a handheld device sighting luminaries that tell you where they are, GP, over the Earth, and doing it a second way. It doesn't mean it describes what you're on. It just gives you coordinates once you do the math and the calculations.
Okay, I mean, maybe this is something that you get your teeth into next, but for me, what I hear when EQ mount comes up is the affirming the consequent. So while it might intrigue you to, because it sounds very similar to triangulation from what you've just described. Well, the process that they're actually employing. Okay, so they're now to get a mount with a telescope on it to track along with the stars. Okay, fine. That's great. But every assumption that they'll probably use zenith for, or azimuth for, to then go on to say that that's why it's on a sphere, will always be non sequitur.
Right. No, I totally agree that it's a presupposition and they're twisting it. The point is the EQ mount is tracking the star's reference from Polaris. They're trying to say it's from Earth.
If I wanted to track a star, and I wanted to program an EQ mount, and I knew my longitude and my latitude, and I knew the times that I wanted it to follow, I could go to the almanac, type in where I want the telescope to be pointing at a particular time, based on my geographic position and the star's GP. I could look all those numbers up and twist it at the right time to do the same thing. That assumption would give the same movement of the EQ mount, yeah? None of it would be based on a sphere. All of it would be based on 3D trig of the stars, that your basic way of calculating, wouldn't it? That would work just as well. It would improve by the motion of the EQ mount, round or flat, as it doesn't for them. The calculation would.
I could just add the fundy bit. So Adam said you get a longitude and latitude line. So immediately opening the door for them to say, well, that's only been capable on a sphere. We've only got that from a sphere, therefore it can only work on a sphere. That's where they'd insert it 10th.
No, I'm aware of that. I'm thinking beyond that. I'm saying there, like right now, I typed into. I'll just post it for you in Master B so you can see it. Let me do this, and then I'll comment. Okay, coming your way. Tell me when you got it.
Where's it going?
Master B.
Okay.
Okay, so you could type, again, this is just from beginning research, so I'm going to get into it because I see something here like I saw something in the sextant. A Venus position tracker live. I mean, just done a minute ago. Sun distance, blah, blah, blah. Earth distance, blah, blah, blah. RA, right ascension, 9 hours, 29 minutes, 4.8 seconds. December 17th. So you can type into Google or Stellarium, I understand as well, at your current time when you could observe these stars, if you're using an EQ mount that's been properly set to Polaris, if you're in the northern, I don't even want to say hemisphere, but you have to line it up to Polaris to begin with. So stationed on Polaris. And then you enter your longitude, latitude, and then you go, and instead of trying to look at the sky and say, where is this? All you do is go and say, give me where it is based on my alignment. And then you just go turn your dials and sure enough, look through the telescope and there's Venus or there's Saturn because it's in your night sky to be seen. So it's set to the sky coordinate system, not the Earth coordinate system. Now they're going to flip it around and say, this proves we're on the ball. Of course, that's a presupposition, it's stupid. But they're not trying, it has nothing to do with the Earth, is what I'm trying to say. It has nothing to do with shape.
No, I get that. You've made that clear.
Yeah, it'll be coming in the future because there's something here that popped up like when I was doing the sextant. I said, wait a minute, how can these? So, yeah, more time.
Good stuff. Very good stuff. Certainly needs a bit more looking into. Obviously, at the moment, we're not going to claim it as flat Earth proof or anything, but by the same token, where Adam says, it's certainly possible to be done on a flat surface. Maybe it'll transpire it's impossible to do on a sphere.
You look at those figures that Tim pulled up. So if I just set up a basic rig for something to follow those azimuths, I could set it up, couldn't I? I wouldn't have to know the Earth's a ball or flat. I could just, if I've got a catalogue of where that star will be at certain times, which is what the almanac shows, I could program the telescope to look at those positions at those times, and it would track the star.
Yeah, you've just described what an EQ mount does. Yes, that's right. So in that description, at no point do you go, well, I necessitate a sphere in any of this setup. So other than them affirming the consequent and saying, because the Earth's a sphere, EQ mount, and then they go into a long-winded description of how it works. And because long-winded description of how it works, Earth's a sphere. You know, that's all they'll ever do.
You're going to need R for that.
You are going to need R for that.
Well, you do in their world, because all of that star movement is no perspective, first and foremost, in their calculation. All of the movement, the repositioning of the star, is assumed to be caused by Earth rotation. All of it. So you do need R. Because we don't need R.
Yeah,
We know that
that's
those stars and their different azimuths relate to a GP position over a flat plane.
That's exactly right, Adam. In that EQ tracking system, you're going to have to track, and they say it's because the Earth's rotating rather than the sky is moving. Exactly right.
There's been a few instances so far where people have tried to spin this into R. That would be flat Earthers' R value. How was it phrased yesterday? My obsession with R? Au contraire. I have no requirement for R. Similarly, I have no requirement for reference frames. You do. But I like the fact that it's immediately trying to be spun, only after 18 months of us pointing out that it's debunked, I might add. Suddenly now it's come to a head. They're like, it's your R value that's dead. It's yours.
They're trying to conflate ours.
They're trying to say I'm obsessed with the R value. And I'm saying that will eventually go the same way as reference frames, which is to say, what? You think we need an R value? Even the dude yesterday, I don't need an R value. You know, it's obvious which way this is going to go. The claim that Earth needs an R value, because it's there in every single one of their claims, will be turned into our claim that Earth claims that they need an R value, and that'll be wrong. That's how it'll go by the anti-flat earthers.
Nobody ever claimed the Earth had a radius.
Exactly how it gets it.
Yeah, all spheres, apparent or geometric, have a radius. If you could prove me wrong on that, I'd like to hear about it.
There's another example. Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, was saying, what bulge? You flat earthers saying there should be a bulge? No, not us flat earthers. You and your curved maths. Just anti-flat earthers like to deny their own rhetoric because it's been pointed out to be incorrect by flat earthers. So that bit pointed out to be incorrect by flat earthers, attack the messenger and how they present it as incorrect, even if that means putting a complete kibosh on their own original globe claim.
Yeah, they say it's our claim. We get blamed for it all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're blamed for their failures in the globe model, and they're put on us to suddenly start proving that the globe claims Earth should turn underneath because it says it's got Coriolis effect, that being you turning underneath to see the effect. But suddenly that's our claim and misunderstanding about it. No, we don't make that claim.
No, it's our claim about what they claim. They learned that claims bring consequences, so they just want to imagine the Earth being a ball and just not try to avoid making claims about it at all.
Chris Berry says, all sphere in love and war. Thank you very much for the super chat, Chris.
Ha.
They do, though. Exactly, Arwin. Oh, right. You claim... My claim is wrong. Well, that's you making a claim, then. No, I'm refuting your claim. No, that's you making a claim. You claim my claim is wrong. Therefore, I can challenge your claim that my claim is wrong. That's just their logic. It's totally ass backwards, but that's just how they work, isn't it? It does bring
In
a smile to my
Seinfeld,
face.
it was called Bizarro World.
Bizarro World, yeah. Well, now we've defined it, haven't we? It's not Bizarro World, it's anti-flat earthers.
We're going to come out with an anti-flat earther book similar to Where's Waldo. It's going to be said, Where's R?
Yeah. What, you want R? Oh, I can't ask for that. Seeking an unrealistic concession, I think. With that, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streamed, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, a massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!